Good morning, everybody, and welcome to week 3. Hopefully, week 2 has gone well for you. A couple of updates. I've been emailing you regularly. I hope you guys are checking your email. But one of the things that I sent last week was I got word about the testing center with Easter weekend and Good Friday. They closed early on Friday and they were not open on Sunday. And so I did push Lecture 2 test due date back to Wednesday in the testing center. I do want to encourage you to go ahead and keep on our original schedule, but since you did lose a day to take it in the testing center, I did add one more day to take it. So officially Lecture Test 2 is due on Wednesday instead of Tuesday. Now today is technically the beginning of Lecture 3 material. And so I do have some good news for you in that Lecture Test 3 is only going to be over one chapter. So you kind of get a little bit of a breather this week, and that you only have one set of notes and one set of material to be studying. So this should be an opportunity to kind of catch up, catch your breath. You don't have a lot of homeworks. You just have one chapter that you need to learn. And so I just kind of want to go over kind of the expectation. There's a couple of things that I want to kind of clarify and go over with you. And so the first thing is taking a look at our things to know, and there's a couple of things I want to edit. So as you can see, our things to know only covers one chapter. We have chapter 5, which is the integumentary system. So we are moving up in our organization of life. This is going to be our first system that we're covering in A&P 1. And so as we go throughout the rest of A&P 1 and A&P 2, each chapter is going to be about a particular system. So we've already done the chemical levels, like the atoms and the molecules and compounds and macromolecules. We did the cellular level in chapter 3, and we focused on organelles and cells. And then chapter 4 was all about tissues, and it's our tissues that make up our organs and organ systems. And so from here on out, we're going to be looking at those levels. Now, we are going to be going back, so it's not like once you learn something, you can forget it, because as we go into our systems, we're going to talk about specialized cells and tissues and things that make up those organs that make up the organ system. Now, I do want to make some adjustments here under possible essay questions. So the first thing I want to tell you is that I am removing this one as a possible essay. Okay, so essay number 2, the one about skin cancer, it doesn't mean you don't need to know that information, but I feel like this particular essay was a bit tougher than the other two, and it was kind of more difficult to grade. And so you still need to know all about the skin cancers and the types of cells that they affect. But in terms of your possible essays for this particular unit are either going to be essay number 1 or essay number 3. Now, one of the things that's different about this unit is instead of having 2 kind of essay questions, you're only going to have 1. And instead of them being 2 worth 5 points, you're going to have 1 essay worth 10 points. And so you have a little bit more weight here, but you have only 2 possible essays that you need to prepare for. Now, the first one's very straightforward. Name and state the function of the 4 types of cells found in the epidermis. You will find that very clearly in your notes. There's a particular section that names and describes the function of your 4 cell types, okay? Now, the second one I'm going to reword a little bit, so I really hope you're watching these videos because I feel like it's worded differently on the actual test, and so we're going to adjust the wording. So the first thing we're going to do is for this possible essay, you do need to state the 2 main layers of the skin from superficial to deep, but we're going to edit this a little bit and include the sub layers of each. Okay, so we're going to state the 2 main layers of skin. This is going to be your epidermis and your dermis, and then you're going to include the sub layers of each. For the epidermis, there are a possible 5 sublayers, and then for the dermis, there are 2 sublayers. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to state epidermis and dermis, and then you'll give the 5 different layers of the epidermis and the 2 layers of the dermis. And then what you're going to do is describe the difference between thick and thin skin. And so what you're doing with this one is when you talk about your epidermis, there are either 4 or 5 layers. The one that has 5 is going to be your thick skin, and we're going to find that in the particular areas of your body, like the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. And then most places you're going to have thin skin, which only has 4 of the 5 layers. Okay, so I just kind of want you, when you're preparing for that essay, kind of look at this wording here, because this is really the expectation and what you're going to see on the test if you get this essay. So the 4 types of cells and their function in the epidermis, and the 2 main layers of skin, which is epidermis and dermis, the sublayers of each, 5 for epidermis, 2 for the dermis, and these are gone over very clearly in your notes, and then the difference between thick and thin skin. Okay, so I just wanted to make that little adjustment there. As always, you have word bits, so you need to study those for matching purposes, and really, there's not a lot that's going to be different about this unit except for the fact that it's only 1 chapter. So in terms of when is it due, okay, I want you to notice something here. We are now switching to Mondays. Because you only have 1 chapter to cover, I'm going to push that due date back, and that will be better long term for our semester. So if you look at your overall schedule, from here on out, your tests are going to be due on a Monday, okay? Now, I've always given you 5 days to take your test, which means your test will be opening on a Wednesday, and they will be closing on a Monday. So that will give you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and Monday to take your test. I do want to encourage you, as always, just because they're due on Monday doesn't mean you have to do it on Monday, okay? Sometimes you may need to get ahead because if you wait until the very last day, that's going to give you a late start on the next unit, okay? So the 13th is going to be our due date. Of course, your Moodle assignments will be due by midnight that night, but they really should be done before you ever take the test. In terms of the materials that you have available to you, once again, you have your things to know. You're going to have your 1 PowerPoint and your 1 note sheet. Okay, hopefully you guys are looking at these and using these materials. And then you have your lecture recordings, as always. You do have some study materials, and one of the things that I want to talk about is in your packet, you've got some places where you can draw. Miss Grisham, whenever she teaches things, she would go through and she would draw with her students. Obviously, we're not in person, so even if I did that, we wouldn't be doing that. But there are some examples of those drawings that you're more than welcome to look at, and they go with the pages in your packet. You do have some practice materials, as always, and then you have 2 graded activities. You have a video with some questions, you have a Chapter 5 quiz, and then you do have your test, which is due by the 13th, okay? So if you guys have any questions, as always, I want to encourage you to come and see me, to email me. I'll be happy to sit down with you and help you in any way. Please be sure you get Lecture 2 completed by Wednesday on the test. The homework is still due on Tuesday like normal, but just be sure you get Lecture 2 material completed. And then if you have any questions about Lecture 3, just feel free to come and see me during my office hours or email me at any time. I hope you guys have a great week, and I look forward to hearing from you.